All right, Frontal Blessings. We are back with another video. All right, before I begin, a couple quick announcements. 8th Annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference. That'll take place October 30th to November 2nd, right here in Hollywood, Florida. The event is a 4-day event. Begins with a meet and greet on Thursday and a opening ritual to commence the event, like we did last year. And then Friday and Saturday, we got workshops from 9 to 4 p.m. We come back on both nights, Friday and Saturday, for a group ritual, followed by a group dinner afterwards, some hanging out, some socializing, kicking it, having fun. The only difference, on Friday, it's an indoor ritual working, and Saturday, it is a outdoor ritual working. And then we finish the conference off on Sunday from noon to 4 p.m. with a question and answer session done by yours truly. And that concludes the event. There's 2 ways you can attend. You can attend in person, or you can attend it virtually. If you want information on how to attend the event, how to sign up, or you need any information on lodging, airports, things of that nature, shoot me an email, khnum19@gmail.com, and we'll get that information over to you. All right. Also, if you're interested in a spiritual reading or a consultation, I offer various different types of readings: telepathic demonic readings, Egyptian oracle readings, Santa Muerte readings, shadow work readings, which is always a great reading to do, especially if you want to see what's going on currently around you. Maybe you're not dealing with the shadow or the hidden self. And a shadow work reading is a great reading to do because it also pushes you in the correct direction of what you need to work on in your ritual work. As I've said before, I'm huge on, I teach people as far as ritual work is concerned. How do I go about ritual work? You should always design ritual work first and foremost for your needs before your wants, because a lot of people come on the path and they focus on wants and they're neglecting their needs, and then they sink further and get devoured by their chaos, right? Maybe you're interested in a deity reading to see what gods, goddesses, and demons and spirits walk with you. Or maybe you're just interested in a spiritual consultation because you got a lot of questions about the occult, the left-hand path, or maybe you want to just focus on a certain area of interest. But again, I have to reiterate, sometimes people forget a consultation is not a reading. Sometimes I get on a call for a consultation and they think it's a reading, and they're asking, like, so I want to ask the spirits this and that. That's not how that works. So if you're looking for a divination session with the spirits, choose one of those readings. If you're just looking for a consultation, that's what the word means, consultation, to consult. If you need some guidance and some information, it's a consult, all right? So just want to be clear on that, all right? Also, if you want to sign up for classes, we got a lot of stuff going on here at Primordial Chaos. If you want to take any of the classes I offer, go to the Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Tier 3, that's the tier you want to join. Tier 3 gives you access to the 3 private classes I do every month on Patreon, in addition to the group ritual that we do together at the end of the month. And keep in mind, when you sign up for on the Patreon, you don't just get access to the classes from the day you join moving forward. You also get access to everything in the archives, which is going back 6 years. All right, if you want to see the full roster of ongoing classes, go onto the Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Go to the collection section, and you will see that all the ongoing classes, new classes added in the last few months with constant new classes. I rotate them every month. There's enough of material and classes and resources on there to keep you busy for years. So if you want to upstep, take your path, your spirituality and your path to self-mastery to the next level, that's the purpose of the Patreon page. Patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti, tier 3. That's the tier you want to join. All right. Also, don't forget to check out the social media pages. Primordial Chaos 9 on Instagram. Primordial Chaos, 2 words, on Facebook. And primordialchaos.com 3 on TikTok. All right. And those are the best places. Subscribe to those platforms. That'll keep you abreast of what I'm doing here on Primordial Chaos. Real simple. All right. Excuse me. Other than that, sorry, apologize for that. Also, don't forget to check out the Primordial Chaos podcast, available on Spotify, all major podcast platforms. The direct link to my podcast, the direct link to the Primordial Chaos Patreon page to sign up for classes, the social media pages, my email. All those links are in the description box of the video that you are watching right now. All right, let's get into it. I figure we're at the end of July. Let's wrap this up, as this has been Set's month, which is this has been Set's year, basically here in 2025 at Primordial Chaos. But now, since July is winding down, which is the month of Set, I figure I'd wrap it up with this video, the Pentagram of Set and Self-Mastery, which was one of the inspirations that inspired me to, start the Patreon page a few years back. And really, in essence, it's what, in totality of what I'm trying to show people, or my point of teaching, or why I do what I do. As you know, just to reiterate, for those that may not know, I took the pentagram, right, superimposed with Baphomet, or the pentagram of Set, as it can be called when working with Set. And I took those 5 points of the pentagram. And the pentagram of Set, you will see it in the Draconian tradition. You will see it scattered in other schools of thought, but it's a very popular concept in the Draconian tradition. There's a ritual called the pentagram of Set. Not so much exactly the way I utilize it. I was inspired to use it in them concept of activating those 5 points. Those that are in the mentorship program, they have a more deeper understanding, understanding, and overstanding how those 5 points work and are activated. And what we're supposed to be getting out of this entire year-long working, as we approach now the 8th month, right, which you guys will see again. Goal is to work on that tonight. I was trying to do it over the weekend. I didn't the August Patreon events. But you'll have the month of August working coming soon. Some of you have been doing the workings for every month. You've been reaching out to me, giving me some feedback. I'm not sure about everybody else. These workings, it's something I hope. We started this the last few years, where we see at the end of the year, going into the new year, what deity steps forward and is the deity we ought to work with for the entire year, right? So this has been interesting, to say the least, right? You guys have been giving me some really, really detailed feedback, some of you, about some of the stuff that you've been through, some of the things that have happened, some of it, ups and downs, the positives, the negatives, and that's all part of the transformation process. And again, the 5 points of self-mastery of the pentagram, as I teach, and I teach you guys to look at it as mastering yourself on these 5 points: spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially. To sum it up, these are the reasons why you should be coming on the path of the occult. Now, some of them can be flipped around in order, except the first one, okay? The first one always needs to be first, period, because you can't accomplish the other 4 if you don't understand that first principle, okay? And that's having knowledge of self. And having knowledge of self covers a wide ground of what does that mean to have knowledge of self? Well, that's what Set brings. He brings the awareness of having true knowledge of self, not the illusionary knowledge of yourself, not the indoctrinated knowledge of yourself, not the bullshit that they program you with, not who you think you are, not all the influences that your head's been filled up with. You get that rude awakening when working with Set, when you start to see who you really are, the good, the bad, the ugly, the strengths, the weaknesses, the ups, the downs. So you must have knowledge and awareness of self. You must have hidden gnosis of selves. Once you have that true understanding, understanding, and overstanding of who you are, then you can, those other 4 points become activated. Now, whatever order you want to put the others in, that's going to vary from person to person, depending on what's going on in their life, where maybe the last point, finances, might be more critical than the others at the moment, right? Or maybe emotional and mental health might be more important than some of the previous. But none of it can happen if knowledge of self, gaining that knowledge of self and gaining knowledge period, which gaining knowledge period is included in that category. None of that can happen or manifest if you haven't put that first one first, all right, and keep it there. And that's what I tell people. I know, look, and I say this honestly, okay? My goal when I first came on this path, I didn't come on here because I wanted to do hexes and spells and love spells and get pussy and become rich in 30 days. Was not ever my original intent out the gate, right? Now that aforementioned stuff, that is part of the occult left-hand path at right times, right places, right circumstances. Not right out the gate when you're fresh, raw, and new and you don't know shit and you're going to all of that materialistic stuff, right? Then your intent is out of whack. Your purpose is not in alignment, right? You should your first and foremost reasons why you're coming on this path should be to gain knowledge, to grow, to evolve, to change. Just like it says on the inner arm of the Baphomet, coaguli, right? And coagulation, which is the last operation of the 7 operations of alchemy, that's when one has transformed or evolved from one state to a higher or greater or a more superior state. And as I said before, that's what the Baphomet truly represents. It represents the infusion of the divine masculine and feminine energies, right? To become like a Baphomet, right? That's one's goal. That's what the infernal union ritual about Samael and Lilith deals with, to become like a Baphomet, right? And Baphomet, when you look at the Baphomet, right, and you understand it, you're dealing with the infusion and the harmonization of masculine and feminine energies. You're dealing with the harmonization of the 4 elements: earth, air, right, fire, water, right, and the 5th element being you, the physical being. You know, you have the goat face of Mendez, of the man. You have the breasts of a female. There's androgynous, and all of this deals with harmony. It is a alchemical symbol or sigil. When you're gazing upon the Baphomet, it is used in high states of alchemy in the occult. I know it's one of the most used and so-called popular symbols on the occult, and everybody uses it probably because a lot are using it because it's just trendy. No, we don't use it for that. We use it for the power that it represents. All of this too ties into Set or Satuk or Seth, however you want to pronounce it, depending if you're using the Greek, the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic, the Metu Neter, however you're going to use and pronounce it. You're looking at everything that Set represents, because in order to have order out of chaos, one must have harmony, right? There must be harmony on all levels. Now, as I've always stressed for years, I don't look at harmony and balance as the same thing. They're connected, right? The only problem I have with balance, when things are balanced, there's a moment of stasis or stagnation. It's like, look at the balancing of the scales. There's a stillness. So one is balanced when they're able to go into that state of balancement or stasis and get a deeper understanding, understanding, or overstanding of who and what they are, right? Things become still or stagnated. Now, harmony is when energy is flowing harmonious, right? Everything seems to be in order. And you're going to have ebbs and flows of harmony, and disharmony will creep its way in, or chaos. And your goal is, once you understand these 5 points of self-mastery, you will be able to navigate successfully through your life when you're dealing with chaos or disorder or problems or obstacles or challenges. And as I've said many times before, and I got to keep reiterating, because there's a lot of information out there over the years where Set is always presented as the god of chaos and confusion, which is correct. But it's sometimes people interpret that and they don't understand it. What it's really talking about, it's not because he creates it or he intentionally sets out to cause it. Because sometimes Set, when you hear some of these descriptions and depictions, or you read shit in books, it almost gives the perception that Set is a chaotic, negative troublemaker, right? And that's not what it is. He's called the god of chaos and confusion because he makes order out of it. That's what our yearly workings have been about. That's what this month's working was about when we did the ritual just a couple of nights ago, which was a great ritual. I mean, really great ritual. How we tapped in and worked with, the red desert. It was a really great ritual visualization. How we buried our chaos in the red sands, of Set. And we did a powerful visualization where we, saw ourselves in a sandstorm and how we, buried our chaos in that storm. It was a great ritual. And that's what Set represents. He represents another divine intellectual aspect of the adversary in a form that encompasses a warrior type of energy, that encompasses a very aggressive, don't take no shorts, no joke type of energy, but also a very intellectual, ancient, mystical entity that brings high states of knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and spiritual power. That's Set. That's Satuk in the many names he's known by. That's what makes him unique, because he's so different than any other archetype, deity, being, god, or demon that you'll work with. And that's why one of his titles is the unique one. And I love that title for Set, because unique is the best way to describe him. Unique. And as you know, when you look up the definition in English of unique, something that stands out, that's different, a cut above the rest, quote unquote. That's Set. As I said before, that's why people still to this day, scholars are debating over what is the animal mask that Set is always depicted wearing. Right? They still to this day cannot prove or come to a clear-cut agreement on what it is, because they're not supposed to. I've said this many times over the years. You never will. That's what makes him unique. Something, is it a jackal? Is it a donkey? Is it a black boar? Is it a... It's all of those things. That's what makes him unique. And there's that chaos, because when you look and you see the chaoticness of what his mask represents, it also represents what he does. Remember, understanding deities, when you use them in the form of archetypes, it's about understanding the consciousness and what they represent. Whether that's elementals in nature and creation, or spiritual enlightenment, or consciousness as a whole on all levels. That could be spiritual, that could be mental, right? That could be, emotional. It could also be dealing with higher sciences of science and creation, etc. All of those things come into play. And understanding the significance and the origin of Set. He is so unique, as I've said many times before, because he couldn't even wait for the full 9-month period to stay in the womb of his mother, Nut, that he ripped himself from the womb. He decided when he was going to be born. That's how unique he was. I also had mentioned it a while back, the movie that came out a few years back, I think it was called The Gods of Egypt. They villainized Set like they always do. And, the movie starts off where, he spoils his brother Osiris's party. They do a play in the whole battle between Usir and Set and Heru, right? But the thing that stood out to me, if you looked at it through the lenses of the occult and kind of filtered out all the villainous bullshit that they put in there, like they always do at Set, they vilify him and make him look like some religious devil character. Notice what he was doing in that movie was so unique. He was going to Thoth, who had the power of knowledge and intellect. He was the scribe, and he took his brain. Anything that was affiliated with the deity, he took their power. He took Horus's eye, etc. So if you look at him, he goes to each deity. What they're trying to show you, he's not trying to worship any of them. He's showing it's about embodying and becoming what they represent. About embodying the wisdom and the intellect of Tahuti, embodying the power of Heru, etc., of Amun-Ra, his father, etc. And that, as I've gone over many times on and off over the years, the story, I'm not going to get into that here. I've done videos on that, the story of his relationship with Ra and the journey of Ra to the underworld. There goes the unique one again, present at key moments. And as I've also told you, when you go between the 21st and 23rd dynasties, after that period is when he was vilified. When the Osirian cult took over Egypt, they switched the places of Set and Usir. Set was that one who was regarded as one of the highest deities in Egypt that assisted in the navigation of the soul in the underworld. Set was the one present there with Anpu or Anubis. And that's why sometimes in depiction, they can both be confused to being the same thing, because sometimes their mask and their presence and their energy is very similar. I've seen many times people confuse Anubis or Anpu and Set or Satuk, right? Because there's a connection there. Go back and do your research. You're getting the perspective of how they want you to understand Set or Satuk in the last 46 dynasties of the Hyksos, after the rule of the Osirian cult took over Egypt. Okay? So you're getting a more modern day understanding. Those who really understand Egyptian Heka and the ancient Egyptian mysteries, we don't look at Set as this biblical religious devil character. We don't. Okay? Because we have a better understanding. We know he represents one of his sacred orders, the Order of the Black Light, which some have done a play off of it over the years, the Temple of Set being one of them. Because what is black light? Set teaches you black light, right? It's the same thing. Like I say, if a book I've always told you guys to definitely go look up and research and read and study is Black Light Consciousness by Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum. Black Light Consciousness talks about going into the darkness, the light, understanding neuromelanin, understanding the functioning of your cerebellum, your medulla oblongata, the hippocampus area of your brain, where these neuromelanins travel and open up the pathways in that darkness, that light or intellect manifests. It goes deeper when you say that saying, one must go into the darkness to do the work of the light. We're talking about black light. What is black light? Black light is intellect at its purest form. It's what emerges, what we talk about when we're dealing with the black flame of Set. The black flame of Set represents all consciousness in existence. It is why if you see on my altar, and I know you guys have seen some videos here and there over the years when I've snapped some videos, if you look in the center of my altar, I have Set sitting on his throne. I also have a banner behind where Set's sitting on his throne holding the staff symbol of chaos. And as you see Set sitting on his throne holding the staff with the chaos sigil, it represents the supreme ruler and sovereignty, one who has made order. It is a master out of his chaos. He's the ultimate supreme representation of mastery. That's Set. If you look in the center of my altar, I have a statue of him sitting on his throne. You see the skull, which represents the void, the underworld, the abyss, the realm of immortality. You see the candle skull holder with the skull peering above him, and then the black flame, a big 7-day black glass candle that I charge with certain spiritual oils, right? That's my black flame. And it's placed at the center. As I told you guys in the past, I don't just set altars up, right? This is something I do personally. My altars have a geometrical, they're designed a certain way. Mine faces the east for a reason, but again, what is due true east if the earth is constantly evolving on its axis? But I'm always east because I say I'm always east. I'm at the center of my axis in universe. That's a whole nother science, right? But I set my altars up, points, symbols, things are in certain places for certain reasons, because don't think sacred geometry, right? When you're dealing with the science and spirituality of sacred geometry, don't think that does not play an important role in understanding the occult and the left-hand path. But Set, and why he's the centerpiece of my altar, and I even have another, you see him to the right, standing there in the triad of darkness with Anpu and Sekhmet, which represents, as you know, that triad of darkness. I'll get into that another time. Maybe I'll do a video on the triad of darkness and the triad of light in Egyptian Heka mysteries. But he is the embodiment of everything that one wants to become on this path. Now, I don't just say this because a lot of people say this, oh, I have a special relationship, oh, he's a patron deity. Set is, because my connection with Set goes back even before I was on the occult of the left-hand path. When I was in systems of consciousness and awareness, when I was into the whole Kemetic thing and the Anunnaki stuff in the 90s, as I mentioned to you guys before, I always gravitated towards Set. I had this strange, didn't know, everybody, in those schools of thought, he was demonized. Again, when I was in those spiritual paths, he was he's like the devil character. And I belonged to an order, the ancient Egyptian order back in the day, where we used to do elemental rituals. We had a site called the Elemental Site, and everybody was like spooked out to take the role of Set, because he wore all bright red, he wore red namuz, everything was red. I was fascinated with that shit. I kind of didn't understand it fully then. Obviously I do now. So I always was the one to want to play the role of Set in that ritual. And I just was always fascinated by his story. I always sympathized with Set in the sense that I didn't understand why people didn't really understand why he was doing what he was doing, right? And, when you're not on a path of true self-mastery, awakening, and real enlightenment, you got to suppress that shit and keep that shit to yourself, because everybody else is with that mainstream conformity shit, so they just quite don't get it. So my connection with Set goes back to the very early, mid-90s, I would say. Just a couple years before I really started exploring the path of the occult, right? But anyway, I think you get the point. Let's finish this year out strong. So let's bid farewell to 2025, July, which is Set's month. All gratitude, honor, and respect, not worship. Gratitude, honor, and respect to the Almighty Satuk, the Almighty Set. May the power of Set be with all of you. May the black flame ablaze in the central part of your heart and solar plexus, and let everything that Set represents emanate from you throughout the rest of this year as we finish the year of 2025 without working with Set. So hopefully this video helped. Again, if you need to reach out to me for a spiritual consultation or a reading, or you want to sign up for classes, the direct link to my Primordial Chaos podcast, all those links to the podcast, my contact email address, the Patreon page for classes, the social media page, all of those links to get at me, it's in the description box of this video. So I'm going to sign off, say, again, may the power of Satuk be with you. Infernal blessings. And we are out of here. We'll talk soon.